So what have we learned about legacy code? Let me try to summarize sort of the way that I think about refactoring and legacy code, which really are two sides of the same coin, right? Your code's going to be legacy within 3 months. At some point, you're going to figure out either because the code could be improved or because you need to modify it to add some enhancements, and that's going to require some restructuring of how it works now in order to accommodate the new features. I don't know if anybody recognizes this text. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for a people to advance from that subordination in which they have hitherto remained, blah, blah, blah. Anybody happen to remember this? It's almost right. If you are a student of American history, you might recognize this as almost, but not quite, the opening of the Declaration of Independence. The version that most people are more familiar with, if they studied a little bit of American history, actually begins with a sort of famous clause, we hold these truths to be self-evident. So the reason you didn't recognize the first one is the first one was the first draft. The final draft turned out to be very memorable, right? But my view is that when you write code, all you're doing is you're creating a first draft. Refactoring is the act of getting from your first draft to a draft that you're actually proud of and would want to submit. So some pitfalls as you're thinking about how you do this. First of all, keep in mind that most of your time doing software, in some sense, is going to be spent refactoring, right? Because even if you start out with a version of your code that you're developing right now, by the time you finish this session and do a commit, you've probably found little ways to improve it. Every one of those little ways is a refactoring. It's just a very small one. So keep in mind when you're thinking about, oh my gosh, this code base is so nasty, let's just throw it out and start over. Like, let's not even try to refactor it. This is almost never the right thing to do. That code is there because it's adding value to some customer, which means that whatever else you can say about it, it works. And it's working in the field. It has been working for a long time. There's a lot of collective knowledge and wisdom, not just about the code, but about the customer's needs that has gone into the creation of that. So, when you're looking at a screen full of code and you say, ugh, we should just throw this away, it's not just those 20 lines or whatever that you're throwing away. You're throwing away all of the collective experience that went into putting it there. So it is almost always possible to find a way to incrementally refactor and get the code to be a little bit better each time and a little bit better each time. That is almost always going to be a more prudent course of action than saying, let's just start over. I think one of the sort of insidious things about software is that when you say, let's just start over, the first 50% of the functionality takes you no time at all. The next 40% takes you way longer than you thought. And the last 10% seems like it takes you forever. And that's because that is all the accumulated knowledge that is in the product that you've chosen to throw away and start over. You threw away the institutional knowledge that's going to make that last 10% work. Similarly, be careful when you're doing refactoring. That should be the only thing you're doing. At that point, you're not adding functionality. You're not adding features. All you're doing is keeping the same level of functionality, but making the code structure better, either because you're trying to eliminate smells or bad code metrics, or because you need to sort of open space in the design to add your new feature. But finish the refactoring part first, and only then, from a stable place with good test coverage, start actually adding the enhancements that you set out to add. Metrics. Again, metrics can be your friend, but you shouldn't be driven by them. There's no magic value for any one metric that says you're good enough or you're not good enough. You're looking to apply engineering judgment to when a lot of different metrics are all trying to tell you at the same time something's not good here, right? So use metrics as something that guides your intuition as an engineer. Don't try to use them as the gospel truth and say, as soon as we hit these metrics, the code is good enough, right? It's good enough when the metrics are good and your judgment says it's good. Again, in terms of thinking about embracing change on multiple timescales, it's really, really painful to do a big refactor. A big refactor can break a lot of tests. It can lead to branches that diverge from the main branch and are really painful to merge back in because there's a lot of conflicts. Doing a small amount of refactoring as you go, doing that pull request, getting that little tiny bit of improvement in, if you do that, you will avoid accumulating an unsustainable amount of technical debt, because too much technical debt is exactly the scenario that tempts people to say, let's just forget this and start over. Nobody understands this code anymore. Right? The best way to not have to make that decision is take the time to keep your code in good shape. Understand that in terms of, does this add value to the customer right now when I do a refactoring? No. If the code is already working, it's solving the customer's problem. But remember that most of the value of that code is probably in the future. The customer is going to be using it for a long time. That means that it is in your interest to make sure that over that long time scale, you have the ability to effectively enhance it. And the way to do that is to avoid building up a lot of technical debt, do the refactoring when you need to, use good comments, use good commits, and you will have a long, happy life with code that not only serves the customer, but is beautiful, and you will actually enjoy going back and adding value to it. And more importantly, when you leave that project, you will have made it easier for whoever is coming on board to be able to do the same thing in your absence.